Well, Nundos.
Okay.
I'm your host, Attorney Jeff Kaufman. Sitting next to me is one of my favorite people in the world.
Thank you.
National touring comedian.
Yes.
Cruise boat captain.
I'm driving the boat now.
You got promoted.
I did.
You got promoted.
You don't want me driving the boat.
James John.
Hey, everybody.
Now, the problem is what I do is we try to find humor in a lot of things.
We do.
While I am a attorney and I do personal injury work, I get to do stand-up. You and I get to laugh and joke about things. And every time somebody gives us a question, I go, I think we're being screwed with. But then I know what happens.
That's the crazy part.
Because I deal with crazy.
You do, man.
I get the call, hey, Jeff, yeah. And anytime you hear the yeah, you know you're going to be, the story's going to be about an hour and a half, and it's going to be the craziest crap you ever heard.
But you know why it's hard for you to be a lawyer, though? Because you'll hear that. A person will be telling you that, and you can't make a face. No. You can't react. You got to sit there and go,
Oh, I had the worst one. Oh, I got a bad one. And I know I need to go to the question. But the bad one was this. When I used to do criminal defense, they let this guy in late in the day. And I was like going, okay, I don't have the file. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what's going on. And he starts the story. And the story begins like this. Yeah, I was railroaded. Translation, I absolutely did it. I absolutely did it. All right, let me tell you how this happened. All right. So I go into this movie theater.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to see a regular movie, and it was a porno.
By mistake.
And I go, yeah, that's happened.
Happened to the best of us.
And the problem is, as an attorney, as somebody who's trying to be his attorney, I have to show empathy. Absolutely. I have to support him.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that happens. Yeah, that happens. Yeah. See?
You took a left when you should have taken a right.
You know, the titles screw with you. You don't know. They take regular titles but he goes, and the last thing I thought it was gay porn.
Oh.
I'm going, yeah, God, that's confusing.
Well, it is because it has titles that sound like a normal movie, like Tastes Like Chicken.
It's confusing.
You don't know. Yeah.
He goes, so I'm sitting down, and suddenly, next thing you know, I'm performing oral sex on some guy, and I'm getting arrested.
Wow. Wait. Ha.
Okay.
Right.
And this is where I realized I need to stop doing this. Because I looked over and I go, hey, that happens. And the minute I said it, I realized I had went too far.
Yeah.
And I had to lift the file up to cover my face. And like shake like I was upset at the police for this.
How dare they, sir? Clearly.
You know, defund these guys.
Defund. How about they defund your client so he can't afford to go back to that theater?
Oh, man. And you know, it just felt so stupid.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my partner Craig, and this was like 28 years ago.
You did not call Craig.
And I told him.
You told Craig.
I told him. And he was hysterical.
Well, my question is this. As your client.
He paid in cash.
How did he pay?
He paid in cash.
Thank you to our producer, Dave.
He paid in cash. Those are many moons away.
I like to make a down payment. Go down payment,
yes. It's all a big misunderstanding.
Thank you for sharing.
Police get trickier and trickier every day.
They do.
How dare they be in this theater? But but that's what happens sometimes. And I get called about medical malpractice cases all the time. And the problem is this. People die. People get hurt. People get sicker.
That's a reality.
My husband's been in the hospital for 3 months. Obviously, the doctors did something wrong. And no, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have an issue that keeps you in the hospital for 3 months. But there are times that doctors do bad things. And
yes, it is.
Dentists count as doctors. So don't think that, he's not a doctor. No, a dentist is a doctor.
And that's great because that leads me to my legally screwed question because this is about a dentist.
Oh, look at me guessing.
Look at you, my friend. Now, here's the question. Legally screwed. Now, I went to a new dentist who shaved. A new dentist, yes.
How about we not go to the new dentist?
Yes.
Was it a coupon?
No, it was a
Groupon.
Groupon. Yeah. Now, I went to a new dentist who shaved down my molar and put on a crown without my approval.
Wait, how do you just shave one down without you knowing?
because you're just trusting them. Yeah, you're like, oh, that sounds normal.
Sounds like a deep clean to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Now, I had no issues with this tooth and wanted a second opinion before agreeing to this.
What do you mean I had no issues with the tooth?
Nothing was wrong with my tooth.
Just grinded it down for the hell of it?
Well, that's what they're saying so far.
Show me the money.
That's exactly what's going on. Now, I'm stuck with a crown that will need replacing someday, even though they say the procedure was free. Do I have any recourse, or am I stuck since they covered the cost? It's a good question.
No, it's a terrible question. It's a terrible question in the sense that you think because somebody hurt you and you didn't have to pay for it, that person's off the hook.
They're not.
No, I think when somebody runs you over with their car, you didn't pay to get run over.
I did not. No.
It's the same concept.
Gotcha.
Just because you didn't have to pay for your injury doesn't mean they're not responsible for injuring you.
I agree.
You were injured.
Yes, you were.
Okay. They did this. And here's the deal. With a medical procedure, you need permission.
Correct.
Okay. So those people who watch TV and they think they understand the law, it's real simple. There's criminal, which involves jail time and stuff like that. And then there's civil, which involves money or forcing you to do something or stop doing something.
Okay.
Okay. There's a difference between the two. All right. Now, in this case, it's not criminal, even though technically they harmed you without your permission.
Where would this fall? Because that's a gray area.
It's a civil case. It's got to be about money.
Gotcha.
So somebody's going to say, how much was this worth to you for the rest of your life to have this? Especially, let's say it's a front tooth or it's a side tooth where you smile and it's like you got it's showing.
It's showing the
If
crown.
it's a back tooth or something else like that where you can't see it, but you're still going to need dentist work for the rest of your life possibly because of it.
Because crowns have to be maintained.
Yeah. So it could be a $50,000 issue. It could be $100,000. But here's the thing with medical malpractice.
Okay.
And everyone, you need to hear me on this because everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to sue. Medical malpractice is different than a regular lawsuit.
In what way?
Medical malpractice requires another doctor to testify and say, this was unreasonable and it's the cause of your injury. And you just can't go, hey, I'm just going to find this doctor for hire. Because you technically have to be in the field, and a lot of states require them to still be practicing.
Okay.
So you don't have the professional expert issue you have where a guy's sole job is to testify for attorneys.
That's all he does. But this is different.
You really need somebody who's involved, still practicing, and his professional opinion matters. And it's a little different than... because it's a requirement.
Well, and I'm also guessing, you tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know, probably I imagine there's not a lot of doctors who are still practicing who want to go against one of their...
It's tough.
It's a tough
situation.
That must put them in a weird position.
Now, here's how most of you decide that there's a problem.
Okay.
You go to another doctor, and the doctor goes, yeah, I don't think this is right. I wouldn't have done this. Okay, and then everybody automatically assumes, oh, I have a doctor saying that this was unreasonable and I should sue. That's not what the doctor's saying.
Different, yeah.
And if you ask your doctor that after he says that, hey, would you be willing to testify for me against this other doctor? Well, I didn't say that.
Exactly.
They will backpedal on levels
here. They're not...
Because doctors are kind of like actors. How many of them does it take to screw in a light bulb? 100. One to do it and 99 to say they would have done it differently.
Yes.
So those are the rules of that.
Gotcha. And that's going to be hard to find a guy like who's willing to do that because it then becomes public that you went against this guy. You look a certain way to other doctors.
But there are other things. You don't always have to sue. What you can do is also file a complaint with their medical board.
What does that do when you file a complaint with a medical board?
Well, it means that there's going to have to be an investigation.
A hearing, if you will.
He'll have to answer it. And if they take it to the next level, they take it to the next level. The reason he didn't charge him is because he did something wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I've never seen a doctor, I've never seen this happen, to perform a medical procedure where there's a problem, where he doesn't bill them.
Correct.
Because he was in the right.
Correct. Yes. Doctors get paid.
I mean, I have a case currently right now where a doctor left part of what they call the mechanics in the body.
He left an instrument.
So this woman kept moving her shoulder and she's got this sharp pain. She can't figure out what it is. And he left a pretty good sized piece of metal in her shoulder. Now, here's the problem. There are doctors out there.
No.
It was almost impossible for us to find an expert because so many times does stuff get left in the body that it's normal now.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And if you're a doctor right there and you think, Jeff, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, that's BS, call me. You can be my expert.
Thank you.
I went through 4 doctors to finally find a doctor who goes, no, this is unacceptable.
Okay, answer this because I'm listening to what you just told me about her. So that means they have to open that woman back up.
3 months later, they opened her up, they took the piece out, and now she's got to rehab it again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm guessing that goes civil at that point.
Yes, it's not criminal.
Not
it's
criminal,
a civil case.
Civil.
It's a medical malpractice case.
But doctors have malpractice loss insurance.
Yeah,
that's why they have it.
And just this isn't about suing doctors.
Understood.
When a doctor makes a mistake like this, and the doctor's going to go, I didn't leave it there. The nurse should have been keeping track of this.
They passed the buck.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they go, you got to sue the hospital. She doesn't work for me. She just gets given to me.
So then it becomes the hospitals.
So you have to bring all 3 of them in.
That's horrible.
Yeah. And I don't like suing medical providers.
Because
it's not something I like because it's unfair in the sense that a lot of times life happens.
That's what I was about to say.
But when you do things like pull the wrong tooth, for example, I had surgery on my foot. The doctor marked that foot like 6 times to make sure he cut into the right one.
Yes.
You know why he marked it 6 times?
He didn't want to get sued.
Because somebody cut up the wrong foot.
Yes,
and enough people cut up the wrong foot that it became a thing. So when people are all upset about lawyers, most of the safety procedures have been put in place to avoid lawsuits. Which, hey, listen, I have no problem with that.
Makes sense.
I have no problem with that the medical field has become safer because of attorneys. Now, the issue is, well, it's become more expensive because of attorneys. That's a lot of BS. Because
explain that, because everyone says that. They're like,
because every bit of insurance or anything else that has been done to handle healthcare, medical malpractice is never covered in it because it's not that big a deal.
Okay.
So any bill or anything else we try to do to help healthcare or anything else, it never has malpractice in it.
Got it.
Because we realize it's important for people to be able to protect themselves. And the protections doctors already have, because it's a separate kind of process to sue them, it really does protect them.
Got it.
So that's the way it works.
My question is this. I know we got limited time, but let's say that does happen with the lady, had the piece still left in her. They open her back up. What could happen to the doctor, the nurse, and the hospital legally?
They might owe some money. Depends on what a jury thinks the damages are.
So it's civil. So my question is, because I'm looking at it from the doctor's point of view and the nurse, they're trying to do their job and they made a mistake. Does that nurse lose her job? Does that
Maybe.
Maybe.
And the fact is this, if your job is to pay attention to what goes in and out of the body,
yes,
you should lose your job.
Got it.
This isn't like, oh, I made a small error. You left something in somebody that could have killed them.
It could have.
You know, we don't know what happened. It could have cut an artery. There's so many different things that could have happened because of this. Bad movement, bad this, or MRI, whatever. You're not supposed to have metal in you at an MRI. You got a piece of metal, it could come shooting out of you. Who knows what can happen? But the fact is this, and there are going to be a lot of doctors and nurses who listen to this podcast, and they might be a little upset by it. But let me make this clear. If you came to me and I made an error so egregious that you were harmed by it, I mean, so egregious that I should have known better. Yes, I'm not supposed to leave stuff in the body.
True indeed.
Or, for example, I know I have to show up to court. And if I have a hearing and I don't show up, I'm in the wrong.
That's on you.
Okay, that's going to be a big issue. Oh, you lost a case because I didn't show up to a hearing? Yes. I need to show up. So that's the way that works out. I'm sorry that's the way it is. I know when people listen to this podcast, you know, they go, oh, this is serious. Jeff's going to joke with Craig afterwards, and then we get an interview. I think it's very important for our listeners to understand the law that exists.
Yeah.
Now, there's always going to be a time where somebody says, well, it's not exactly, you know, this is this and this is that. Yeah, everything has interpretation.
There's variables, yes.
You know, so there are people there who go, well, that's not the way that works. Well, that's the way it works in my neighborhood.
So I learned something again today. I learned that if I put something in someone's body, it's my job to take it out.
Yeah. And the good part is after this, you know, after I talk to Craig in the next segment, we get to talk to Tim Matheson from Animal House in Van Wilder.
Very nice.
Yeah. Who knows? It's a fun day some days. 2 attorneys arguing. I see you dressed for the occasion.
It's Friday. You knew when you scheduled me for Friday, this is how I'm going to look. This is actually your fault. if you want me to not look like this, schedule this for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I'm going to remember this moment because if you don't have court, this is what your Monday looks like.
That's not true.
We will talk on our next show.
I sometimes wear polos.
Do you see the lawyer in him? He qualified it. Sometimes. Say, when you've been practicing law as long as I have, you know there are certain qualifiers. You know, like you could say, lawyers in general, we're real good at throwing that extra word in to keep us from being sued later. Oh, and for those people who keep calling me Dan Aykroyd, it could be worse.
I see it. Little Tom Hanks in there too.
Little Tom Hanks, little Jack. Anything with a bad hairline, I get called out. Man, this guy's got a bad hairline. He looks like another actor with a bad hairline. Say, yeah. We're doing okay. Actually,
I get mistaken for George Clooney all the time. All the time. Happens all the time. People sometimes come up and want autographs. George.
You think you look like Clooney?
It's not me. It's all the people out there.
It's the people out there. You know something? We're going to get a letter from Clooney.
Yes.
And he's going to go, you look nothing like me.
I'm suing you for disparaging my image.
You know, this reminds me of every celebrity show. One guy goes, hey, this guy in the audience thinks he looks like you. And he looks like you if the guy got run over.
The Dollar General version.
I see that we have similar hair.
Dollar store
color.
Dan Aykroyd over here.
Yeah, dollar store Dan Aykroyd.
Here we go. Self-driving taxi operated by Waymo was recently involved in a pedestrian accident.
Waymo?
That's what it says. Waymo.
Waymo, like the toy company?
W-A-Y-M-O. How would you pronounce that? Waymo?
W-A-Y-M-O?
Yeah. How am I supposed to pronounce it?
Waymo.
Waymo. All right.
Can you imagine they're coming up with the name? Let's make it sound like a toy.
Waymo.
That's what happens when you hit another car. Waymo.
Whammo. So, okay, a self-driving taxi operated by Whammo was recently involved in a pedestrian accident, reigniting the debate over liability in autonomous vehicle crashes. Should the company that built the AI be responsible, or does liability fall on the passenger who technically hired, in quotes, the self-driving car? And if an accident is unavoidable, should AI be programmed to prioritize the safety of the passenger or the pedestrian?
The machines.
That's a
Terminator.
That
Skynet.
is an
It's Skynet.
interesting question.
We're an inch away from Skynet.
That should, when the self-driving car has to make a decision between
Chooses the kid over
this
you.
pedestrian gets killed or the passenger in my car gets killed, what do I do? So
I'm going to tell you right now.
Semi-barreling down the wrong way on a street that you're going 50 miles an hour. Only way to avoid it, hit this lady who's holding a baby. Do I hit the lady holding the baby, or do I go head on into the semi? What does AI do? Oh, my goodness. I would think that AI would think that you have a better chance of surviving by being in the car in a semi than the lady and baby have in terms of surviving if you hit them with the car. So AI should say, hit the semi, even though my passenger might get hurt. Agree?
You know what? I have a better answer. We agree that the AI is faster and smarter than a human being. It can run thousands of calculations, millions of calculations every second.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking distance. You're talking, if you've ever been in a Tesla and it's showing everything and it's already mapped everything out around you, it's showing the cars, 6 cars above, everything else like that. AI should be so good that it was calculating this issue 5 seconds before and should have figured out a better option than just a 50-50. It should have already started slowing you. You and I actually just watched a truck accident victim.
Yeah.
Where the guy was pulling in and we were starting to calculate time. And in the corner, they're showing the speed and everything else. And yeah, there's a delay. But you and I looked at it and goes, this guy had 7 seconds to slow down. And he had 2 reasons in front of him to slow down. He had a car that was trying to move over slowly in front of him and a car that was trying to merge right in front of him. And from that angle, you're watching it. And we saw the video from his angle. Unless he wasn't paying attention, you had 2 possible issues happening.
Yeah, either of those things
would have caused you to slow down.
Caused you or I to slow down, and we saw from the read that he actually sped up.
Yeah, because he wasn't paying attention. Now here's the thing: the
AI wouldn't do that.
And you and I looked over.
I would have slowed down.
There were at least 4 options this person had, but the human element kept him from making those options, choosing the right one. Because I said, all you had to do was move over a little bit to the left and you would have missed the accident. AI would have computed everything going, oh, yeah, we have space to do this.
Yeah, it would have stopped and moved to the left. It would have done all of the things that are the most safe to do in that situation.
Yeah. So maybe you can't trust, but the problem is this. You got problems with software.
Yeah, but you're kind of
Glitches.
ducking the question. You're saying AI should avoid the decision between killing you, the passenger, in its own car or killing a
AI
pedestrian.
owes me, I'm the first person. It should
We're-
prioritize the first person
so the priority should be
to the person in the car.
Even over somebody else
Yes.
who is innocent.
I don't want
a pedestrian.
I don't want the AI to choose somebody else over me.
7-year-old girl selling Girl Scout cookies on the corner.
Grandmother. Oh, what if we
I
start?
want AI to run her over rather than put me in a crash with a semi, is what you're saying. I don't think you're saying that.
No, I actually do. I consider the car I'm in to be my security, not other people's. And if it has to choose between somebody and me, I pay for that car. If I pay a security guard.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right, Skynet president.
What do you think of? Watch this.
No, run me into the semi. Don't run the little
Watch
girl
this.
over.
Watch-
Are you
watch.
out of your mind?
Oh,
Who's programming that?
who's programming it? I don't
Yeah,
care.
who's programming that?
Top priority?
I want them.
He's
thrown
my
out of
security. He's my
programming.
security guard.
No way.
Hey, Secret Service
way.
agents do it all the time. They choose their life over somebody else's.
That's because they signed up to put
That's
themselves
what
in
I paid
danger.
for the car to do to protect me.
You were not signing that little girl up to protect.
I don't want the car to go, hey, Jeff's life is less valuable. Kill him.
Then the little girl in the corner, yeah, AI can make
No,
that decision.
no,
Yes, it can.
it can't.
Yes.
I don't think I'm a parent.
Run
I take
you
care.
into
I
the-
take care of a lot of people.
AI can't choose.
Oh, it can.
It
If you're
can't
saying it's
choose
choosing,
it's
you
choosing
over
over the girl.
What if
It
value?
can't.
I provide more value
What
to society.
We have to. You don't know that. She
Of course
isn't
I do.
grown up.
We don't know.
She may grow up
She
and
could be
cure
crack-
cancer.
or she could be on the street selling crack and doing foot videos. We don't know.
Exactly. That's the point.
But
the point
I don't
is
want
we
it
don't
making.
know.
I don't want it making that choice. That's the whole thing.
I don't want it prioritizing you
I'm in
over
the car.
a child.
You know what it reminds me of? It happens all the time. As a parent, I'm gonna do this to you.
You can do it to me.
I'm doing it to you now. You have a child. Love that child. Well, then put your life on the line for that child.
Of course.
Okay. You got a choice. 3 people die or your child dies.
Oh, 3 people are dead.
Enough said. See, we are selfish bastards.
Yes.
And we want AI
I
to
don't
be
want
selfish
AI
bastards
to be
for
selfish.
us.
No, the AI decision,
No.
much as it pains
That's
me
my
to say
parent.
it, should let my girl die as opposed to
I paid
3
the
other
AI
people
to take
die.
care of me. I paid the AI to take care of me.
Well, maybe there can be a patch for people like you. You can pay extra for a
See?
like they get like
The rich
like
getting richer.
cars.
Rich getting richer.
You know, you modify the car, you get the chip, you put the chip
You're going to be
in.
on The View tomorrow.
Hey, yeah, chip. I'm telling you, don't priority anybody. No one gets prioritized over me.
Much as
And you stick the chip in your car. This is the plot of Will Smith's movie. Remember how angry he was at life because he was mad that AI selected. Remember, the premise of the movie, why Will Smith hates robots so much, is because a robot decided that he had a higher chance of surviving than a little girl, and it could only save one from. They were both drowning. They're both knocked unconscious in the car, and the robot comes down. Robot chooses Will Smith because Will Smith had like a 38% chance of survival, and the kid had like a 17% chance of survival. So it chose Will Smith, and Will Smith said, "Listen, anybody knows 17%. That's enough. That is enough to
watch this,
prioritize that
this.
kid."
Watch this. Now, as a combat medic, one of the big things I was trained was this. You go out onto a field. You figure out who has the better chance of survival. If somebody has a low chance compared to a higher chance, you don't get to decide little girl, older guy. You do it completely on an even keel basis. I don't know if going towards a child in comparison to plowing straight forward into a semi, which we know the math on that is probably I'm going to die immediately. I mean, there's no either option, but I don't want to risk another person because my life is less valuable. And that's not the way it works. When you triage a situation, you triage it based on facts, not on emotions. And that's just the way that goes. And I know I've made a joke about protecting me, but I also think when you buy a car, you buy that car because it, like, for example, a Subaru or a Volvo. These are meant to collapse around you. So I'm buying this car to protect me. I don't want my car to ever not prioritize me.
You want your car to do what you would have done in the same situation, and you would have avoided
I want the car to be better than me.
And you would have hit the little girl.
I want the car to be better than me.
You wanted to have the morality you have.
No, I don't want morality. I don't want my car to have morality. I ain't trusting.
Obviously,
I ain't trusting our.
Obviously, you don't.
Morality is what's killing our country. Everyone thinks they don't have to follow the law as long as they think they're morally right. I don't trust people's morals. That changes as the wind blows.
I think you are dodging the issue.
I'm not dodging the issue.
The issue is, when AI calculates, I have two options: 100% chance, death 100% certain for Jeff Kaufman versus death 100% certain for girl on the corner. And it has to choose one of those two.
Protect the driver.
You want it to protect you.
Yes. I pay for a service. I pay for the car to protect me. I don't want the car to choose somebody else over me. If not, then I don't need the AI. I'll make my own decisions.
Yeah, I like the not needing the AI more.
Yeah, the future is AI. You'll get into a cab. There are already cabs that do it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it because
like
I'm scared
this one
to death.
That ran over a pedestrian.
But you know
by
what?
Whammo.
Maybe I'm not.
Whammo.
Maybe I'm okay with it. Maybe now that I've talked about it, if the AI is functioning, it's obviously a better driver than I am. It'll slow down earlier. It'll calculate the odds. It'll do a lot of things that I have the inability to do because my brain is not functioning at millions of decisions a second. And in fact, the new NVIDIA chip that's going into people's desktop computers is 50 times better than our computers now, which means that it's able to run so many decisions. It could slow down, probably about half a mile before something even happens. It's already calculated a half a mile in advance, not just 200 yards. So maybe AI is better as long as it's not controlled by, let's just say, Windows. I'm interviewing Tim Matheson from Animal House and a bunch of shows later, but AI scares me a little bit. But then again, I will take care of the little girl.
As long as it's not your life or hers.
Or my kids. Okay, I admit it. I'm selfish. I've got Tim Matheson, actor, director, producer, and writer. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yeah, we might get into some legal stuff later. You know, when you write a memoir, you know, the funny thing is, as a lawyer myself, you know, the issue is, you know, do you tell something that you're going, I might open myself up to something. So when you hand a manuscript to your publisher, do they say, hey, listen, is everything clean here?
Yes. You know what? It's you're absolutely right. I cut a couple of things that were stories about a situation that could be perceived, you know, in a different way. If that other person didn't quite see it the way I saw it, or I recounted it, and so I was sensitive to that. And I was also sensitive to my ex-wife and my children and how they would react to certain things. And I didn't want to air dirty linen. You know, that wasn't the purpose of what I was doing here. I wanted to recount the lessons that I learned, the mistakes I made, and what I learned from those, and how I recovered. And my sort of golden rule was, I don't mind making mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Just don't make the same one twice.
You know, when I think about, you know, what I would write when I'm done, when I'm at an age where I go, okay, I think it's important for my children to know everything. I think it's important for me to go out there and give people knowledge. I mean, I assume that was the point of it.
Yes. Yeah, that was exactly it. And because I started as a kid actor when I was 12. So, you know, it's I rounded up to 7 decades, but it's been 6.5. But, you know, and each, you know, I started at 12, but so there were so many different phases of my career where I had to just, after about 5 to 7 years, every 5 to 7 years, I had to reinvent myself in a new phase of my career, whether it was kid actor, then voice actor in Johnny Quest and Hanna-Barbera, then 5 to 7 years of doing westerns on Bonanza and the Virginian, and then the Quest, and then doing comedy. I found improv, and I started doing comedy with Animal House, and then just every different phase. And then I directed. I began directing a lot because certain acting parts just weren't coming my way anymore. So I started directing. So I just kept reinventing the wheel, if you will, at different points in my life.
I always laugh because when people say, where do they know this actor from? And when you have 6, 7 decades to pull from, isn't it weird that your fan base goes, so if you're in your 50s or your 60s, they know you as Animal House. If you're in your 30s and 40s, they know you as the dad in Van Wilder. I mean, you're eventually going to get to something that somebody knows you were in, no matter what age they're at.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be in some sort of seminal shows from different periods, like The West Wing, and now I'm in a show which is like a whole new thing for me. The last 6 years, I've been in a show called the Virgin River on Netflix, which is a streaming show, and found a tremendous audience because I think, going through COVID and a lot of the political upheavals in the world, people want to look for something that's reassuring and calming. And this is a story about a small town where people, even though they don't like each other necessarily or are alike, they just learn how to get along.
I think about people of our age. It reminds me of when people who didn't live through disco, and you try to explain certain periods of time, and you explain, there was a time before the internet when finding somebody when you went out was impossible. You'd have to tell them early on, hey, listen, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. Is it weird to bring this perspective out now and go, wow, that didn't seem like a real time?
Absolutely. And it's one of the purposes, I think, that I wanted to write about working with such greats that people don't remember now, like Lucille Ball and Jackie Gleason, Henry Fonda, and what the lessons that I learned are from them, because they came up through vaudeville, which was like live performances 6 times a day, and you got to be tough and strong to perform like that. And they honed their craft to such a degree that it was a great lesson to me to learn that you really have to work that hard to accomplish something really, really good, I think,
When I look at somebody's history and I see everything they were in and everything they touched, I mean, it's amazing to me because I remember cartoons, the earlier cartoons, the Johnny Quest, things like that. I mean, is it funny for you to go, yeah, I was in Johnny Quest. I did all this, voice work.
I was so lucky. I mean, because I just sort of, I'd finished being a kid actor. I kind of outgrew it. I was like a gawky teenager. The parts weren't really, I wasn't getting hired for any parts. So I just did this voice audition and got lucky enough to get it. And so for 4 years, I did all these cartoons, and it was a peek into a whole world of some of the best actors I've ever worked with. Mel Blanc, who did all the Looney Tunes at Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. He did all these voices, and just to watch him transform into these characters, giving a dog a personality or a talking duck or whatever. It was amazing. And it was just yet another peek into a side of the business I had no idea existed.
Now, what's interesting to me is I remember when voice actors, it was always just something cool you do. It paid the bills. It was an easy day work. I mean, not easy day because I've done voice acting and that's hard. But did you ever imagine that voice actors would be paid $10 to $15 million a movie?
Well, it's changed in the sense that there are these guys now. Well, they're movie stars, and so they they get a lot of money for hiring the movie stars to do the voices, and it's hard work. But back then, guys like Mel. I mean, it was all residuals, and I remember the first check. I was totally broke. I was like 17 or 18, I just bought my first house. It was for $29,500. It was like back in the day when that was a reasonable price you could get for a house. And I had a payment coming up, and I went out to get the mail and opened it up, and I'd done all these cartoons, but I just got paid to do them. There was a check for like $2,500 in the mail, which today would be like $25,000. And I just went, oh my God. And I realized that these actors that I was working with, they got 10 checks like that every week. And so that's why they did it. And they were so talented. They booked like 6 shows a day. And I was doing like 1 show a week, and I got this big check. I was thrilled. And it was a big change in my life.
I'm wondering about, because you always hear the story about residual checks and some guy getting a check for like 10 cents or something like that. What do you think the smallest residual check you think you've got in the mail?
I think I've gotten one for a penny. Or you get $5 or $7, but it's a credit to my union, the Screen Actors Guild, that back in 1960, when I first started, 61, they started paying residuals on old movies that they were using to, fill up time on TV. The actors because the networks and the TV stations were making money from the advertising, so they should share that with the studios and the actors that were in them, and they're actually using an old show to replace making a new show, so we should be compensated. And I think that it worked out right, and now that it's happening in streaming too, because there really are no residuals, but that we've worked a way to be compensated for that, and it's helpful because you can build a career as an actor.
Now let's get on that streaming services, because I always wondered about that. Since there's no real residuals and there never was any, I mean, how disappointing is it going, wait a minute, you're watching my shows hundreds of times, hundreds of thousands, millions of times. Like, for example, Burn Notice might be on a streaming service, and you're going, I used to depend on those residuals. I mean, what do they do now? I mean, is there any compensation when a show gets taken? Like, let's say a Burn Notice goes to, let's say Amazon or something. I mean, do you get checks for that, or is it, hey, listen, life is life?
I think it's a work in progress. I know on our show on Virgin River, we are being compensated for residuals, and I'm not sure, honestly, I don't even know how it works. I mean, it's so complex. I mean, as a lawyer, you probably could compute it, but it's either a period of time that they get to, for X number of months or years, you can show this, but then if you re-show it again after that, you have to pay again and compensate the actors for that. And so, but it's important because acting, you think actors are well paid, but you might get $5,000 or $10,000 to do an episode of a TV show, but you might only do 3 a year, and so it was the residuals and the commercials and the residuals from commercials that really gave you the chance to make a living and pay your bills in between those episodic shows that you would do, or a movie or something.
Now, what amazes me with your career is you've done about everything. And Animal House cuts me up the most because a lot of people don't know. I was an Army veteran, you're a Marine veteran, and they made a lot of fun of ROTC and everything else in that movie. And I'm kind of laughing because you were a Marine, and I'm sure you're sitting there going, that's not the way we do things.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was a guy pretending to be a Marine, and tough, and we were that was the lampoon, and they made fun of everybody, and it was, and the way they got away with it too, because if you look at Animal House today, there's certain terms that are used and certain things that are somewhat offensive to some people, but the lampoon, the way they got away with it was in 1977 when we made it, or it came out in 78. It was a story about 1962. That's when it was set. So they were saying, well, we're not like this now, but that's the way things were back then, So that's the way they got away with the sort of the racism and the sexism and the misogyny and, and the homophobia too. I mean, so those things which were funny in that time, people would sometimes take exception to now, I think.
It's kind of hard, you know. I was reading something and I want to make this right. I went into the Army when I was 17 years old. You
Wow.
went into the Marines when you were an actor. And what cuts me up about it is you had to do the same thing I did. I lied about my age when I was in there because I
Wow.
didn't want people to view me as a child and everything else because I was an adult. I was in an adult world and it was a little scary. Now you had to pretend you weren't an actor. I mean, how difficult was that, especially when people might go, wait a minute, I think I've seen you in something.
I think we were all so scared and just trying to survive that nobody put two and two together. And I hadn't really done enough at that point. People would spot me, I think. Although I must say, when I was in boot camp at MCRD in San Diego, um, they showed a picture that I was in at the base movie house, which was Divorce American Style with Dick Van Dyke and Debbie Reynolds. I had a very small part in it. And of course, none of the recruits could go to the movies, and my DIs didn't go to the movies. So fortunately, nobody that I was, exposed to and saw that movie. So I kept my cover until I think I got into combat training, and then it got blown. Um, but now, how long were you in?
I was in 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. I was in the 82nd Airborne. I was enlisted, got sent to a bunch of interesting places.
Wow.
I mean, how difficult was it for you to go, at any moment I can be sent somewhere?
Well, I was torn between the Vietnam War and wanting to serve my country and not wanting to go to Vietnam. I mean, I didn't quite believe in the purpose of the war. I didn't understand it. And yet I did feel an obligation to, I owed my country, and I wanted to serve my country. So it was fortunate that I got the opportunity to join the reserves and be trained as a Marine. And so many of my fellow Marines all went to Vietnam and all served, and some didn't come home. And it was great to be part of that brotherhood and to learn what it was all. And it also it grew me up. I became a man because of my experiences in the Corps, and I learned how to work with other people and never leave anybody behind. And so I learned a great deal. It really grew me up and made me aware of service, and that we all owe our country some service. And I think it would be a more important thing now for all of our young people to have to perform some kind of service for a year or two in the Peace Corps, or in some capacity in the service of some sort to our country. And I think it would help us all understand what we're here for.
One of the questions I like to ask actors in your position is, if a family member of yours can watch one thing you did and you go, listen, I think this would be the thing I was most proud of. And that's tough because you've had a ridiculous catalog of stuff. And you said, listen, this would be the most serious thing I did, the best act I did. This is the funniest thing I've ever done. I mean, what kind of recommendations would you give to family members to go back to your career?
Oh gosh. I mean, well, I think the funniest thing was Animal House, certainly. And it was my first comedy. So I was like, scared to death. But Belushi was so supportive and helpful that helped me get through that. But also I think one of the most challenging jobs was The West Wing, working with one of the great writers in American cinema, Aaron Sorkin. And let's see, and then Johnny Quest, learning to do voice work, and when I was a kid, I was 16, working with Mel Blanc and some of those tremendous voice actors. That was a wonderful experience. And then I did a movie with Clint Eastwood, which he's the best. He's absolutely one of the best directors, best actors I've ever worked with, and a great movie star.
Now, knowing that you have done everything you've done, and this is a weird question, I guess, is there any parts that you regret that you didn't take? You said it was on the table and I didn't take it, or the audition wasn't as good as I would have liked it to have been.
Sure. Oh God, every week. I mean, but from the auditions that went wrong, I learned, don't do that again. Don't get the script down, learn the lines, don't read off a page when you go into audition. prepare it as if it's a role and it's a part. And then once you've finished, walk out and leave it behind you, and don't worry about it. Don't dwell on it. I turned down the things I turned down. I turned down moonlighting because I was exhausted from having done a series right before that, and I just wanted 2 weeks off to go river rafting, and it would conflict with the shooting of it. And I thought I was, well, I'll just, that was a bad one. But listen, Bruce Willis is Bruce Willis. I mean, he was a wonderful actor for that, and he was perfect. And I had to turn down Airplane because I was working on Steven Spielberg's 1941, and I couldn't get off of that movie to do Airplane, and I was very sorry about that because it was a movie I thought, like Animal House, would change the course of American comedy and movies. But there's always that. And then I auditioned for Indiana Jones and didn't get it and George Lucas said, you did the best audition, but you're just too young. And I knew it when I auditioned, but you just sort of go, what might have been, onward.
Well, I can't tell you. There's so many things I can ask you. I only get so much time. But the good part about it is your book's coming out. Damn Glad to Meet You, My 7 Decades in Hollywood Trenches. I assume that's on Amazon and everything else, and I can't wait to read it.
It's out there. Here's a copy. And it's support your local bookstore. You can pick it up there. It's Damn Glad to Meet You.
Well, it was great talking to you, Tim, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Well, that wraps up today's show. I'm attorney Jeff Kaufman. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks to my 2 co-hosts, my good friend, professional comedian James John, and my law partner, Craig Lind. This show is sponsored by Kaufman Lind. If you or someone you know has been in an accident, contact us at 407-500-JEFF or 407-500-5333 for a free consultation, or visit us at whenyouneedus.com.